Let's take a look at our program that's going to drive our 7-segment displays. First of all, we specify SPI as being D11, D12, and D13 for MOSI, MISO, and SCLK. And we're using Digital Out SS1 as D10, as we mentioned before, as our slave select line. Now, a lot of this code is very similar to what we've seen before. We still have our display table sitting here, but we've got a couple new statements here. SPI.format. And typically, for most transmissions, it's going to be 8 bits, and that's what this number is here. The other number that we have here is for polarity and phase. There's only 4 possible combinations of polarity and phase, either 0, 1, 2, or 3. Now you can look at timing diagrams and so on to figure this out, or you can just try putting in a 0, a 1, a 2, or a 3 and see which one works. Now if we take a look here, we can see that by putting in the wrong phase and polarity, we're going to get some strange characters coming up on our 7-segment displays. So in the case that we have here, 0 tends to work, and I think you'll find that of the 4 possible cases, 0, 1, 2, and 3, the only one that doesn't work here is 1. So the other thing that we're going to do is set our frequency of our SPI to 1 megahertz, which is typical. And then we're going to run very similar code to what we had before, but in this case, as you can see, we've got SS1 equals 0, and as long as that stays at 0, nothing's going to happen, and the slave select, and then we're going to SPI write what our value is on our lookup table here. When we change our voltage on our slave select from 0 to 1, it's going to pass through and update the 7-segment displays. Now this is going to work for F to 1. For 0, it does the same thing to treat 0 specially as we've seen before. As we've done before, we can export this program to Kinetis Design Studio, and then we can do what we did before. We can say project, build all, and then we can say debug and debug configurations, SPI underscore 7 segs in this case, and away it goes. Now sometimes when you're using Kinetis Design Studio, you may not get these controls coming up. If that ever happens, you just go to Window, and you go to New Window, and you should see these controls coming up at that point. Now what we can do is we can reset everything back to the beginning, and then we can do step over, and we can go down to where it's going to do our SPI format, and it's going to set our phase and polarity and our 8 bits, and we're going to set up our frequency, and then we're going to set up where we have our counter being F. Now notice that it has SS1 equals 0, and as I said, nothing's going to happen at this point. And when we do the SPI write, it's going to shift in our 8 bits that we've got for the pattern for the F from our display table, and it's just done that now. Now at this point, until SS1 is set to 1, it's not going to let this flow through to our 7-segment display. So once it executes this, we can see it coming up as an F.